gorgeous human beings of currency. This is module 2. And I'm seeing people I was with not long ago. We just did our coach celebration call. I see Heather, I see Marilla, I see Carolina, I see Sarah and Sarah. I'm seeing all familiar faces that were there with me on the other one. So that's awesome. Karina, thank you for being back. This is so fun. Hello, Linda, again. To all of you that are here, okay, I have a question. Do we have, Heather's following me around. Do we have anyone here that is just jumping in to the masterclass or to the program? You're just getting started. So you haven't been on top of everything yet. You're like, this is you're jumping in here. Do we have anybody that's there at their starting point, or is everyone kind of caught up? Curious. Oh, we're doing pretty good. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, this is module 2. And I am very excited about module 2. I'm going to keep my camera open in this way so that I can see all of you, because I think this is probably the best way to stay connected to your energy and to notice if there's anything that needs addressing. Are you okay if I'm looking around a little bit like this? Do you still feel connected? Are we okay? Okay, good. So today's module is a little different than the first module, but we deepen. The goal is that we deepen, and it's okay if your screen isn't working as long as you're there in energy and spirit. That's great. But if I can see your face, that's always great. Like I just love being able to look at you. Honestly, it changes the energy when I can see your face and I can say, okay, they're getting it, or like, okay, no, somebody here is like, what are you talking about? It's helpful. So this is good. Homeowner is in the house. So good. Oh my gosh. All right. So here's the thing about today. We talked about value as it pertains to worth on the first module and the opening call. And I am so happy with the breakthroughs that are already happening in the group. Your shares are the greatest shares. I'm having the time of my life reading these. Honestly, it is unbelievable. It's so good. And I'm also really impressed with what some of you are saying to each other in the comment section. I'm loving the connection. I'm loving how much you're supporting each other and how the breakthroughs are creating more breakthroughs. I'm seeing people tagging people saying your breakthrough gave me a breakthrough and it made me realize, like, this is the magic of a group program. This is why this is so valuable, is because other people's breakthroughs make you go, I hadn't even thought of it like that, or hadn't even read it that way, or like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible that you say that because it made me realize that blah, blah, blah. We've also had incredible feedback on the Q&A and how so many of the questions that were asked were exactly what other people were going through and wouldn't have even known how to ask it or wouldn't have had the courage to ask. So I think these deepening calls are also very important, and there will be a deepening call for this module as well. So as you're listening, listen knowing that if there's a question, there's going to be an opportunity for that. So listen more with curiosity than a need for it to be everything is understood within one call. Kind of open yourself up. So I want to talk to you about gratitude. I want to talk to you about my first encounter with the experience of being told that the key to ascension is gratitude, while I'm sitting in the front seat of a Honda Civic that I'm also sleeping in it at the time. I haven't eaten in days, I haven't showered in days, and my life is going down the toilet. And now I'm being told that the key to life as I know it is to be grateful. And I'm like, well, this is a very privileged way of experiencing life. Like, the happier you are, the happier you are. Great. What about when you're miserable and there's nothing you can do about it? So I had a hard time with the word gratitude for a very long time. I also realized that gratitude was something that I often felt guilted into. Like, you should be grateful. Have you ever heard that term? Like, I should be grateful. And as I've helped so many people break through their financial stories and their ceilings, this is one that I've heard the most. Is I always felt like I should be grateful. Shouldn't I be grateful for how much I have right now? Like, there are people who struggle more than me. Like, shouldn't I be grateful? Shouldn't I just be grateful for what I have? And so there is a very big difference in energetics in words. We've already talked about this. And today I want to bring you down a different path of energetics. And I want to show you how the word value in substitution for the word gratitude changed my life. So when you're going through a difficult time, and I say, you've got to be grateful for the hard times, there's like a very easy eye roll available there. It's like, I'm so grateful. How could I not be? This is the worst day of my life. # grateful. There's sarcasm. It's like, you do not know what you're talking about. What are you even talking about? Like, how do you be grateful? But what if I said there's value in the hard times. Can you feel how that kind of goes right? That's like, oh, that's true. There's value in the hard times. So I want to talk to you about contrast. What I realized is that some of the things that didn't resonate fully with me is when people said, you can't experience joy unless you've experienced sadness. You can't experience bliss unless you've experienced pain. And I don't like that. Like, I want to say no to that. I'm like, I feel like that is a very, I'm going to struggle forever kind of thought, and I don't like it. But what if we said, you will value the happiness in your life in contrast to the sadness in your life? Does that pass? This is where realism wins. Like, optimism is fun, but realism wins, because this is the real truth. I have never been more grateful for my health than after a cold. Like, I don't think about my health. I don't think about the fact that I can breathe unless I've just one morning woken up going, airways are clear. Like, there's a moment of like, oh my gosh, there's the moment your headache leaves your body. My headache's gone. There's a moment where something is healing and you're like, oh my gosh, the reality of the situation is you will most value the thing after you didn't have it. Why is it that the cold of the spring feels so different than the cold of the fall? Because you feel so warm in the summer and then the cold comes and you're like, no. But when you've been cold all winter and the same temperature comes back, you're like, I value the heat. We value because of contrast. Now, this is very different from you can't be happy unless you've got sadness. That's a very idealistic approach where you say something to somebody, look, you've got to look at it like this. How could you really appreciate joy unless, how could you even feel joy unless you'd felt sadness? I think I'd figure it out. Pretty sure I'd figure out how to be happy if I didn't have sadness all the time. Don't think I need it. But that's not what we're looking at. We're saying, can you see how it actually increases the value in your life? Now, let's look at a difficult time that made you realize something that you wouldn't have recognized as soon without what happened. So can you think in your mind something really difficult that happened to you? And if you're willing and you're comfortable to post it in the chat, like whether it was a divorce, whether it was a bankruptcy, whether it was an injury or an illness, something that was really difficult in your life. But like, if you had not gone through that, you know, you would not be as wise as you are now. You know that, like you just know that. So divorce, a lot of divorces that gave you a lot of enlightenment. My horse burning. Oh my God. Breast cancer, abuse, my father dying a month after his diagnosis, a miscarriage, divorce. Oh, my house burning. I mean, those are both awful. When my husband went to the hospital, the dark night of the soul, the death of my mom, both divorces, infertility, miscarriages, cancer, abusive parents. Like, can you just see all these difficult, hard things? Criminal charges, separation, breaking up and getting back together, working through the relationship, children's cancer scare, single parent, pregnant, postpartum depression. Like, when you think of these and you try to tell a person, you've got to be grateful, it feels tone deaf. It's like, if you knew what it felt like for me to have my daughter in emergency surgery, if you would know what it feels like for me to lose someone I love in a blink of an eye, if you know what it feels like to have that, you wouldn't be telling me. But when we look at it, when you look at it, you're telling me you would not be the incredible person you are without these things. That means there was value in the hard time. Not that you should be grateful for them, and not even that you needed them. And this is the detachment, the thing we need to untangle. Because I saw a post about this in the group and I was so grateful it was coming in time for today's module. Something about a lot of people had to hit rock bottom before they became successful, and compared like Tony Robbins and me and you know, a couple of other people, and said some people have to hit rock bottom before they break through. Here's the thing. It's not that some people have to hit rock bottom, but it's that when you value the hard times, nothing can break you. If you become the kind of person who sees value in the hard times, what could break you? It's grateful for the good times and able to see value in the hard times. If you can do that, you are unbreakable. That doesn't mean you don't experience pain. It doesn't mean you don't fall to your knees in pain. It doesn't mean you don't curse the sky. It doesn't mean that you don't cry every tear in your body. It doesn't mean that you don't scream for the top of your lungs in anger. What it means is once you've done all that, you pick yourself up and you say, if this is happening for me, there will be a day I see the value in this. And here's the beautiful thing is if there's a chance that you're going to see the value in this, there's going to be a lot more possibility of that happening if through the hard thing, you know that's going to happen and you lead yourself knowing something valuable will happen. In the same way, when I was sleeping in the front seat of my car, I had the thought, what if one day I get a job, a successful job, or I break through somehow and there's an opportunity for me to speak at a stage in front of my colleagues or my coworkers or something, and I can like tell them the story of how to not give up. Imagine that. What if? Katya, never apologize for family things coming up. Family first. So we are really looking for in our lives the pathway of when it's good, I tap into that gratitude and I don't take it for granted. And when it's hard, I believe that there will be value one day. If we can stay in that frequency, then there is no thing that you're going through that makes you feel like you're not valuable or there's something wrong with you. And there's also nothing that's happening that's just not good enough. Because here's where, when you don't have difficult times, sometimes you lose perspective, not because you need it, but because you're not enforcing gratitude. So I'm going to give you an example. When we look at the people who are born into money, and why the people who don't have money have such a difficult relationship with the people who are born into money. And tell me if you agree with this, is that it appears as though they take their money for granted. It appears as though they take the ease for granted. It appears as though they take their life for granted. It's like you have no idea how hard it could be. You take this all for granted. That's what's hardest for us. If I had that, I would ... If I had that, I would ... This makes sense. But I'm going to ask you a very true question. How much do you value what you have? And we're going to break it down together, because this is the difference between, are you grateful for what you have versus do you value what you have? So people will say you've got to be grateful for what you have in order to call in more. Have you heard that in manifestation courses and money courses and things like that? So it's very hard to be grateful for what you have when what you have is not what you want. However, a lot of the times we want what we want until we have it, and then we immediately want something else, in which case we're grateful that it's there. We wouldn't want it to not be there. We are in understanding that it's better that it's there, but we don't value that it's there. Like, you're grateful you're married, but when's the last time you had the experience of valuing the partner that is sitting in the chair next to you? Like, you're grateful for your car, you wouldn't not want to have it, but when's the last time you had the experience of valuing the car? Of thinking even of what its value is to your life. It's rare that we'll think of doing that. And when it's brought to us to be grateful for everything we have, and it's like, you've got to be grateful for your breath, and you've got to be grateful for your this, and you've got to be grateful for your that, it seems very airy fairy. It feels like, yes, kumbaya, I'm so grateful. There's something missing from the realism of why. Why? Because if you don't value what you have, if you don't really value it, you're not really thinking about it. You're not contemplating how valuable it is. Because if you were, and this is the breakthrough that I had, if we were really valuing what we had, we'd be contemplating how to use what we have way more than thinking how we would be better off if we had what we want, which is the thing we're actually valuing. So I say to myself, I'll give you an example. Okay, I have 3 clients right now in my life. But if I had 10, I would feel blah, blah, blah. And someone says, you've got to be grateful for the 3 you have. And you're like, I am. Are you? Because the question is, if I valued the 3 I had, how would I be behaving in accordance to that? How do you behave when you're grateful for 3 clients, when you value 3 clients? There's a move there if you actually think about it. And it's a very similar move to the move you would make in your mind that you imagine you would make if you had 10 clients. I'd be more confident. I'd post more about my clients. I'd post more about testimonials. I'd ask for testimonials. There's something about the value of something you don't have where you imagine you would do things or you would feel a way or you would be a way if you had those things. Like those things, then you would value your business. You would value your clientele. You would value your skills. You would value your craft. You would value where you're at. You would value it then because then it would mean something about you. But when you first started, you said things like, if I had at least just one customer, if I could just have evidence of one customer that would buy this, it would make me feel like it was real. And then you had one and you were like, 2, maybe 3, how about 10? Because the thing is, the needle moves because we don't understand valuing what we have. We understand grateful for what we have. And it usually comes with this like, yes, of course I'm grateful. But valuing what I have has a very different feeling. So my brother and sister told me about this show that they were watching called Alone. And this show is all about people surviving in the wilderness alone. So not like Big Brother where there are a whole bunch of people, like literally alone. They go into the wilderness with 10 items and they've got to survive the longest. They don't know how long people are there. They don't know how long other people are there for. They don't know how people are doing. They don't know anything. They just know of themselves and their journey. And they know that one day, if they win, someone will walk in and say, you've survived. At this point in the game where I saw it, people have been out. There were 10 people who first started. There's 6 left and they're like 46 days in with 10 items. They had to choose 10 items. So some people said, I will bring a bow and arrow, and I will bring a fire starter, and I will bring a very sharp knife, and I will bring, 10 items to survive however many days. It's called Alone. So at the beginning of this show, one person was like, I know how to make fire. Like I'm a pro at making fire. So I'm not going to bring a fire starter. Because if I'm only allowed to have 10 items,